Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna place down the motherboard on top of the standoff. Let's see if we could see the standoff. Standoff are there, and the holes, they should match up. What we're gonna be doing is actually setting up the power supply, our PSU. This 400 power supply, it should be more than enough for this motherboard. Like I said, this over here, this case, has a newer style in which they actually had the motherboard on top and the power supply. Okay, we are going to actually set up our DVD drive into our case. What we have over here is the actual CPU processor. This one is AMD A6. It's an AMD A6 3500. Which is a 2.1 gigahertz, 3 megabytes of cache, and it's a socket FM1. PC3, DDR3. And we see, before I touch it, let me make sure I'm actually covered here. Just to be on the sure side. And now let's check out what the processor brings. Here we have the actual processor, and of course that's gonna be our cooling fan along with our heatsink, our fan, and our heatsink with the connection to power up from the motherboard. One thing I want to clarify is this over here, which is the heatsink. And this is actually the heatsink and the fan that came with the CPU. This heatsink has already the thermal compound, so there's no need to apply any thermal compound to our CPU. Another thing I want you to notice is on the CPU itself there's a little Doritos looking triangle in one corner. That will tell me the position in which it should go, and that should match up to the CPU socket over here on our motherboard. And it starts setting our CPU. This is called zero insertion force zip. Actually, you can see it moves back and forth. You just gotta set up the CPU in there and it should match perfectly. So let's go ahead and insert our CPU. Like we said, we have the little wedge over there, the golden wedge, and gotta make sure that you match it up. So you have to be careful when you set it up and check out the four corners of the socket to make sure you're actually inserting it to the correct one. And it should just hold in, no issues. Once you do that, just take out the handle and snap it in, and that's it. And just make sure everything is good. And you should be good. And that's our CPU in. Now, what we're going to do is set up our cooling fan and heatsink. One piece of advice is once you set up your heatsink, remember this heatsink has the thermal compound. So once you do it, it's gonna get sticky and it's gonna get messy in here. So I would suggest for you to be careful when you set it up and how you set it up over here. Be de-energized when working on the computers. We have our memory sticks actually already connected to our motherboard. Our motherboard in place with our posts. We're a standoff. Our heatsink and our CPU fan. Okay, we have power to the CPU fan connected. We have power to the motherboard connected, power to the motherboard connected. We have our CD and DVD drive connected to power right now, and we have our hard drive connected to power right now. Okay, now that we have power set up in all our basic components, we are gonna connect the SATA cables. SATA cables, which are right here. At this point, you might want to start thinking about doing some cable management, so that way you don't have that many cables or ports that have electricity touching any corners of your CPU, because something like this might actually short out your motherboard. We're gonna kind of organize this so we could do some SATA connections to our devices, our hard drive, this, and our DVD drive. I'll set off the first one, and I'm gonna connect the hard drive first, and I'm gonna connect here to my hard drive. To my hard drive, and there it goes. And then this one is connected here. It's just like how the last two banks. So that way we don't have to, we have plenty of space more in the other ones. And I'm gonna connect this one here. Alright. Now that we have, okay, we're gonna turn on the computer for the first time. By the way, the hard drive, this hard drive came out from another computer, so it might have an operating system already. Windows XP. CPU is working. Fan is working. Now the requirements for the class is to actually set it up for post. So let's see if we could set the computer so it could go into the BIOS. Just gonna see which one it is. Usually enter in setup. There's our BIOS. Now let's see what we could do here. We can see that the mouse is actually working inside our BIOS. Okay, today's date is actually Saturday. Yeah, ahead. It's actually, let's see. What day is it anyways? June 30th. So that should be there. Actual time is 3:28. So everything is good. There's, as of right now, there's no need for me to change anything. I'm just gonna save out the time date of in the BIOS, so it's actually up to the correct time and date. So I'm gonna go ahead and save changes and reboot. Save configuration and reset, yes. And once again, like I said before, this is my final project for the class CDA3003 with Professor Juan Martinez for Summer C 2012. Computer fully working. and as of right now, it's using Windows XP.